everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Advanced English Conversations. I'm Sophia, and I'm really excited about today's topic because it's one we can all relate to.
Exactly. Hi, I'm Mason, and today's conversation is going to be about those moments in life that take you by surprise, those unexpected, often funny experiences that we all have.
Oh yes, the kinds of stories that make you go, did that really just happen?
Right. But before we dive in, let's do a quick vocabulary preview to help you follow along more easily as we share our stories. We'll introduce some key phrases and words you'll hear a lot in today's episode.
Vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
Yeah, exactly. Vocabulary preview. Let's start with unexpected. This means something happens that you didn't plan for or didn't see coming. It's like a surprise, but sometimes not always a good one. For example, getting a flat tire on the way to work is definitely unexpected.
Exactly. Then we have hilarious. This word means something is really funny. Not just a little laugh, but the kind of thing that makes you laugh out loud until your stomach hurts. Think about a time you saw someone trip, but in a way that was just, well, hilarious.
Next is awkward. We use awkward to describe situations that are uncomfortable or embarrassing. You know that feeling when you say something at the wrong time or wave at someone who wasn't actually waving at you. That's an awkward moment.
Oh, I've had plenty of those. And lastly, unbelievable. This word is great for describing something so surprising or strange that it's hard to believe it actually happened. Like when you hear a story and you think, no way, that couldn't have happened, but it did.
So we've got unexpected, hilarious, awkward, and unbelievable. Keep these words in mind as we share some of our personal stories today. Ready to jump in, Mason?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Mason, I have to tell you about one of the most unexpected things that ever happened to me. It was a few years ago, and I was traveling in Italy. I was in Florence, this beautiful city full of art and history, right?
Florence? Wow. Already sounds amazing. What happened?
Well, I was standing in line for this super famous museum. It was a hot day, and I had been waiting for at least an hour to get in. You know how crowded those places can get, right? Anyway, I was chatting with the person in front of me, just small talk, when out of nowhere, a pigeon swoops down and lands right on my head.
Wait, a pigeon? Just like that?
Yes, just like that. I froze. I had no idea what to do. I could feel its little feet just sitting there, like it owned the place. Everyone around me was staring, but nobody did anything. They were probably too shocked to move.
Oh man, that's hilarious. What did you do?
I did the only thing I could think of. I slowly turned to the guy I was talking to and said, I think I've made a new friend. He started laughing so hard that I couldn't help but laugh too. The pigeon stayed there for what felt like forever before finally flying off, like it was no big deal.
That's unbelievable. A pigeon just decided to sit on your head in the middle of Florence. I bet that wasn't part of your travel plan.
Not at all. And what made it even better was that for the rest of the trip, I kept seeing pigeons everywhere, and every time, my friends would joke, "Watch out, Sophia. They're coming for you." It became a running joke.
Well, it sounds like you're a pigeon magnet now.
Yeah, apparently. But you know, as awkward and strange as that moment was, it's one of those things I'll never forget. It made the trip so much more memorable. Sometimes it's the unexpected moments that turn into the best stories.
Absolutely. Those little surprises can really make an experience unique. I mean, you go to Florence expecting to see art, and instead, you get an unexpected run-in with wildlife. That's classic.
Exactly. It's funny how the things you don't plan for often end up being the most memorable parts of a trip.
Okay, now I have to share one of my own. This one's a bit embarrassing, but definitely one of those awkward and hilarious moments. So, a few years ago, I was at this fancy business dinner, you know the kind, where everyone's trying to be professional and make a good impression.
Oh no, I can already tell this is going to be good. What happened?
Well, we were about halfway through the meal, and I was trying to be polite, listening to the conversation, when I took a sip of water, but I wasn't paying attention, and I accidentally knocked over my glass right into the lap of the person next to me.
No way, what did they do?
They just froze, completely shocked. The worst part, it was the CEO of the company. There I was, sitting next to the boss, and I had just soaked him with water. I was so embarrassed. I apologized about 1,000,000 times, and he just kind of smiled and said, "Well, at least it wasn't coffee."
That's priceless. I can't believe that happened. How did you handle it?
I wanted to disappear, honestly, but I just kept apologizing, and luckily, he wasn't too upset. Still, I couldn't look him in the eye for the rest of the night.
I bet that's one of those unbelievable moments where you just have to laugh later. At least he had a good sense of humor about it.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of the most awkward situations I've ever been in. It's funny now, but at the time, it felt like the longest dinner of my life.
Well, at least you got a good story out of it. I think moments like that remind us not to take ourselves too seriously.
Wow, these stories really show how life can surprise us in the funniest ways.
Now, we've both had our fair share of awkward moments. But you know, thinking about it, don't you feel like these unexpected things sometimes teach us the most important lessons?
Yeah, for sure. It's like, in the moment, you're caught off guard and maybe a little embarrassed. But afterward, it makes you see things differently. I think those experiences help you laugh at yourself more, and sometimes, they even push you to grow in ways you wouldn't expect.
Like what? Can you think of a specific time when something totally unexpected happened and taught you a lesson?
Actually, yeah, this one time really stands out. I was fresh out of university, you know, feeling confident. Maybe a little too confident. Like I had it all figured out. I got this new job at a small tech company. It was my first week, and I was eager to make a good impression.
Okay, that sounds pretty normal so far.
Yeah, but here's where it gets interesting. So, we were in a team meeting, and my boss asked for feedback on this new project we were working on. Without thinking too much, I jumped right in, offering all kinds of suggestions. I thought I was being super helpful.
Oh no, I can see where this is going ...
Yep, you guessed it. My ideas were totally off. Like, not even in the ballpark. And my boss, she gave me this look kind of like a mix of surprise and, I don't know, pity. She wasn't harsh or anything, but she gently explained why my suggestions wouldn't work.
That must have felt a bit humbling.
Exactly. In the moment, I felt my face get hot, you know? Like that wave of embarrassment that hits you, and all you want to do is crawl under the table.
I know that feeling all too well. So, what happened next?
Well, I learned to take a step back. Instead of always trying to jump in with my ideas, I started listening more. It taught me to be a little more patient, to wait and understand the bigger picture before speaking up. That moment changed how I approach my work even now.
That's actually a great takeaway. It's funny how the most uncomfortable situations can turn into the best learning experiences. I've had similar moments where I've realized I need to slow down and observe more before jumping in.
Oh yeah, like when?
Okay, so this was a few years ago when I first moved to New York. I didn't know many people, and to be honest, I was feeling a little lonely. One day, I went to this local cafe, you know, just to sit and read. I'm an introvert, so I wasn't looking to make any new friends that day.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a little me time, right?
Exactly. So there I was, sitting with my book, minding my own business, when this older woman sits down at the table next to me. I didn't pay much attention at first, but then she starts talking to me. Just small talk, like asking me what I'm reading.
Okay, so you weren't expecting to chat with anyone that day, huh?
Not at all. I was a bit caught off guard, honestly. But something about her was just so warm and kind, and before I knew it, we were deep in conversation. She told me about her life, how she had lived in the city for decades, and even shared some of her favorite places to visit.
Wow, that sounds nice. Sometimes it's those unexpected connections that end up being the most meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. We ended up talking for over an hour that day. And you know what? We became really close friends. I wasn't looking for it, but it was exactly what I needed. Her friendship helped me feel more at home in the city.
That's amazing. It just goes to show, you never know where or when you're going to meet someone who'll have an impact on your life.
Totally. It was one of those moments where you realize that sometimes the things you didn't plan for are the things you needed the most. It taught me to be more open, to say yes to opportunities even when they're unexpected.
You know, that reminds me of something my dad used to say: life happens when you're busy making other plans. It's so true. We spend all this time planning and organizing, but it's the unplanned moments that often shape us the most.
That's a great quote. Do you feel like you've had any moments that totally shifted your perspective on something because of how unexpected they were?
Yeah, I think one big one was when I lost my job a few years back. It was completely out of the blue. The company was downsizing, and I was one of the people they had to let go.
Wow, that must have been tough.
It was. At first, I was devastated. I mean, my whole routine, my plans, they were all based around that job. I didn't know what to do with myself. But after a few weeks, I started to realize that maybe this was a chance for something new.
Like a fresh start.
Exactly. I started freelancing, which was something I'd always thought about, but never had the guts to try. It wasn't easy at first, but it ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made. I had more freedom, more control over my time, and it opened up opportunities I never would have had otherwise.
That's amazing, Mason. It's like what you said earlier, sometimes the things that feel like setbacks are actually just opportunities in disguise.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned from these unexpected moments. They challenge you, sure, but they also push you to grow in ways you wouldn't have if everything went according to plan.
You know, it's funny how much we can learn from the things we don't see coming. Whether it's a pigeon on your head or an unexpected friendship, these moments remind us to stay open to life's surprises.
Absolutely.
Now, we've talked about some funny and awkward moments that led to unexpected lessons. But I was thinking, sometimes the surprises we face every day, small, simple ones, can have just as much of an impact on us. Have you ever had a moment like that, where something seemingly insignificant ended up making a big difference? I love those slow mornings. So, what happened?
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I've had a few of those. It's funny how the little things can stick with you. There's one story that comes to mind, something that happened a few months ago. It was one of those quiet Saturday mornings, you know, just me, having my coffee, sitting by the window, not really expecting much out of the day. Well, I was sitting there, enjoying the peace, when I noticed this older man outside, walking his dog. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? But the way he was talking to his dog, it was so gentle, like he was having a full conversation. He wasn't rushing. He just seemed so present in that moment.
That sounds really sweet. Did you say anything to him?
No, I didn't. I just watched for a few minutes. But it really hit me how calm and content he seemed. It made me realize that sometimes I get so caught up in the hustle, in making plans and thinking about what's next, that I forget to just enjoy the present moment.
Yeah, I can relate to that. It's easy to get wrapped up in everything we have to do and forget to just be. I've been trying to do that more, you know? To slow down and appreciate the small things.
Exactly. It was such a small moment, but it reminded me to be more mindful, to appreciate the little bits of peace that life gives us, even on ordinary days.
You know, I had a similar experience recently. It was just a typical weekday morning. I was running a bit late, nothing new there, and I was rushing through my usual routine. But then, out of nowhere, I caught the smell of freshly baked bread from the bakery down the street.
Ah, There's nothing like that smell in the morning.
Right, it completely stopped me in my tracks. I don't know why, but for a moment, it just made everything else disappear, the stress, the rush, everything. I ended up walking into the bakery, even though I didn't have time just to grab a loaf of bread. And you know what? That small, spontaneous decision changed my entire mood for the day.
It's funny how that works. Something as simple as the smell of bread can bring you back to the present and remind you to enjoy the little things.
Exactly. It's like these tiny moments of joy are scattered throughout our day, but we have to slow down enough to notice them. Since then, I've been trying to be more aware of those small pleasures: the sound of rain, the warmth of the sun on my face, even just the feeling of a good cup of coffee in the morning.
Hey, that's something I can get behind, especially the coffee part.
Of course, but really, those little things can make such a difference. It's not always the big, life-changing moments that matter. Sometimes, it's just being present and appreciating what's right in front of you.
You know, that reminds me of something my dad used to say: life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. I used to hear that all the time growing up, but I didn't really get it until recently. We spend so much time planning for the future, but the present is happening all around us, right now.
That's so true. It's easy to get lost in the planning, in thinking about what's next, and forget to just be in the moment.
Exactly. And it's funny how some of the best things in life happen when you're not even planning them. Like, last year, we went on this road trip with a few friends. We had a rough idea of where we wanted to go, but we didn't have every detail mapped out.
Sounds like an adventure. How did it go?
It was amazing. We ended up taking this random detour because we saw a sign for a local festival in a small town. None of us had ever heard of the place before, but we thought, why not? It turned out to be one of the best parts of the trip. The people were so welcoming, the food was incredible, and we got to experience something totally unexpected.
That sounds like so much fun. It's moments like that, the ones you don't plan for, that end up being the most memorable.
Yeah, exactly. It taught me that sometimes the best plan is no plan at all. Just being open to whatever comes your way can lead to some of the most incredible experiences.
I agree. I think that's something we could all learn to do more often, just letting go of the need to control everything and being open to what life throws our way.
You know, Mason, this conversation has really reminded me of the importance of staying open to life's little surprises.
Now, we've talked about how those unexpected, funny moments can teach us so much about life and ourselves. But I wonder, do you think they change us? Like, do those little surprises shape who we are in a lasting way?
That's a good question. I think they do. I mean, every experience, no matter how small, leaves some kind of mark, right? Even the silly moments, they shape how we see the world, how we react to things.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've noticed that after certain experiences, like that time I spilled coffee all over myself just before an important meeting, I've learned to laugh at myself more. It sounds small, but it's actually made a big difference in how I handle stressful situations.
Oh, I can totally relate to that. Learning to laugh at yourself is key. It's like, once you stop taking everything so seriously, those little accidents don't feel like the end of the world anymore.
Exactly. And honestly, those kinds of moments make great stories later on. At the time, it feels like a disaster. But then you look back and think, wow, I really freaked out over nothing.
Totally. There's something about those unexpected situations that makes you more resilient, I think. Like, the next time something goes wrong, you can handle it better because you've already been through it and you survived.
Yeah, it's like we build up a little bank of experiences, and each one makes us stronger, even if we don't realize it at the time.
You know, speaking of that, I had a pretty big aha moment last year. I was on this camping trip with a couple of friends, nothing fancy, just a weekend getaway. We'd set everything up and were relaxing by the campfire, and suddenly, this huge storm rolls in.
Oh no, a storm in the middle of camping. That must have been intense.
Yeah, intense is a good word for it. The wind picked up, The rain started pouring down, and within minutes, our tents were soaked. At first, we were all scrambling around, trying to save our gear, totally panicking. But after a while, we just started laughing. There wasn't much else we could do.
Of course, when things go that wrong, sometimes all you can do is laugh.
Exactly. We spent the rest of the night huddled under this tiny shelter we'd rigged up, eating soggy snacks and telling ridiculous stories. And you know what? That trip, which could have been a total disaster, ended up being one of the best memories I have. It made me realize that sometimes, it's not about controlling the situation. It's about how you react to it.
That's such a great lesson, and it's something you can carry into everyday life. We can't control everything, but we can control how we handle it and how we choose to find joy in the chaos.
Yeah, and that's something I try to remind myself of now. Whenever things don't go as planned, instead of getting frustrated, I think, okay, how can I make the best of this? It's changed the way I see a lot of situations.
You know, I had a similar experience, but in a totally different setting. Last month, I was giving this big presentation at work. I practiced it 100 times, made sure every slide was perfect. And then, halfway through, my laptop decided to update, right in the middle of my presentation.
Oh no, really? That's the worst.
Yes, really, I stood there, watching the progress bar crawl by, feeling my heart rate spike. But then, something clicked, and instead of panicking, I just started talking about it. I joked with the audience, saying, well, I guess even technology needs a break sometimes, and surprisingly, it lightened the mood.
That's a great way to handle it. I bet the audience appreciated your sense of humor.
They did, actually, and by the time the update was done, everyone was in a good mood, and the presentation went off without a hitch. I learned that even in high-pressure situations, a little humor can go a long way.
Exactly. If you can laugh at yourself, it makes everything less stressful. It's like turning an awkward or stressful situation into something positive. Plus, it makes you more relatable.
Yeah, and I think people connect with that when they see you're not perfect, that you can make mistakes and still laugh about it. It's a reminder that we're all human.
You know, this whole conversation has been a great reminder of that how we're all just trying to figure it out, making mistakes along the way, and learning to laugh at ourselves. Whether it's spilling coffee, getting caught in a storm, or having your laptop update mid-presentation, it's all part of the experience.
Yeah, and it's those experiences, the ones that seem frustrating or embarrassing at the time, that end up teaching us the most. They remind us to be resilient, to find humor in the chaos, and to be present even when things don't go according to plan.
Exactly. And maybe that's what life is all about, learning to embrace the unexpected, knowing that even the funny, awkward, or frustrating moments are shaping us into who we're meant to be.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe those moments are what make life so interesting. They give us stories to tell, lessons to learn, and opportunities to grow.
Absolutely. Here's to more unexpected moments and the laughter they bring.
Definitely. I think we've got a lot more stories to share in the future.